Everyman Podcast.
Everyman.
Every man, every way, every day. Another week, another pod. Daryl Campbell Jr., how are you, my brother?
Man, I'm doing great, man. You know, I'm sitting here, I just down some Freedom Dew.
The Freedom Dew. Shout out to the good people at the PepsiCo for unleashing a 50 states inspired Freedom blend of Mountain Dew. You can currently find it at Walmart and wherever Mountain Dew is sold. It is inspired by ingredients and flavors from all 50 states in one delicious bottle.
It's just American. That's just what it is.
It is.
It's the American substance that everyone should be taking into their person.
And as we sit here and record this, this is before 4th of July. You will be hearing this after 4th of July. So we hope that everyone had a safe and wonderful 4th of July. No explosive firework accidents. No undercooked hamburgers or overcooked hamburgers.
No motor damage.
Nothing. No small motor skills or anything like that. Any permanent damage was done to you or your loved ones. And we hope you guys all had a great and wonderful time. This week we have an interview with a awesome dude, an everyman to the core, Mr. Mike Gowen Jr., professional musician based out of Brooklyn, New York, and just an incredible dude. What did you think about our conversation with Mike?
You know what? And we talk about this, Brother Jay, and it's the reason why we even have this Everyman Podcast. It's all about positivity. It's all about being genuine to the core, and it's all about people just really raising the bar for everyone else, being champions in their own right to bring people on. I mean, I know you guys had a great moment there where he shared with me about him championing, being a champion for you in a time of need, and I think that's what it's all about. You know what I mean? It's all about being that special someone for your bros, for your family, for your children, to just lead them down the right path, and staying on the right path is what we're about here on the Everyman. So I just think that he's a fantastic dude, has great energy, a great spirit. We talk about the light and the cosmic canoe. We're connected. So,
and I didn't even know it.
We didn't even know.
Yeah, it's always amazing when we have these moments where true moment of cosmic canoe, where it turns out your guest and a former Everyman guest have something in common, and there's a connection there. So it just goes to show that we're all in this together, and we say that a lot, and it may not seem like it at the time, and we're all kind of in our little bubbles, whether it be professionally or socially or culturally, but we're all sharing this space together. The digital space where you're accessing us now, and also the physical. So it's important to continue to shine that light on everyone that you meet, because you never know how that's going to come back around to you. Absolutely. And I think the thing that most struck me about Mike in this conversation is his attitude towards the ups and downs of life. And you can hear in his voice that he's a guy who's been through a lot, and he's had a lot of success, and he's had some failures, just like me and just like you. And he's mastered the art of finding a way to get himself out of it every time.
Such resilient,
and also to reinvent himself a few different times. And as you hear now, what he's working on with his career aspirations now as a musician, and how he's kind of been on a journey from a side man working for other people to now he's getting his own thing out there, and being a leader. And I can't express enough how important it is to understand that the path that you're on is I guarantee you, if there's one thing I can promise you, it's that your path is going to have some obstacles in the way. And when you wrap your head around that, and you understand that, hey, I'm about to do something that's fucking difficult here, and there's going to be some parts of it that are exceptionally hard. When you own that going into it, I find it helps me get through it.
Absolutely.
And when you hear somebody like Mike talk about that, it really just drives that home. So Without further ado, let's kick it to our interview with Mr. Mike Gowen Jr.
Let's get it.
Joining us today on the Everyman Podcast is one of the most talented and all-around everymen I know, professional musician Mike Gowen. Mike is not only one of the most soulful and dynamic guitarists I've had the pleasure to play with, but he's also a great athlete. Mike was a varsity letter winner at East Stroudsburg University as a defensive back, where he helped lead the team to a 2005 Division II semifinal berth. And today, Mike spends his time in Brooklyn working as a professional musician and personal trainer, and has worked with some amazing people in both areas. Ladies and gentlemen, one of my favorite people to be stuck in the back of a passenger van for 15 hours with, Mike Gowen.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Hey, man, it's a pleasure. It's an absolute pleasure. And like I said,
that was quite the introduction. Dude.
Well, you're quite the man, so it's the least I can do. And quick little background to my knowledge of Mike. I was hired as a drummer for a wonderful group called Militia Vox out of Manhattan a few years ago, and somebody I met through my networking, going out to NAMM every year. And I was blessed to inherit Mike as the axe man in that band, and we got to spend some time doing some rehearsals in New York, and ultimately we did a few gigs together. We spent a lot of time in the car and all over the place, and put ourselves in some interesting situations. So we had quite the bonding experience, and he's a great example of a strong professional musician, and how to do what you get after your dreams in any way possible. So that's why we had you on the show. So first, tell us a little bit about yourself, Mike.
Yeah, man. I mean, go back into college and all that, or just current day?
Yeah. Like... So we'll start. Where did you grow up?
Yeah. So I'm from the Philadelphia area, Westchester, Pennsylvania. And at the time when I was growing up, it was definitely more suburban and rural than it is now. It's been pretty developed up now. But
tipping cows, that kind of stuff.
Nice.
I never got into actually tipping cows, but we drove past a few here and there. play with the idea.
Yeah, you consider.
Never got into.
Consider the thought. That's good. So growing up in Westchester, I know I'm familiar with that area. I know it's a college town, and there's a lot of open area up there. So I guess you kind of did you fall in love with guitar early, or was it football first that got you interested?
Yeah, man. So I'll say my first musical experience, I started on piano. So I started playing piano when I was 7. It's sort of typical parents getting you into it sort of thing,
Mm-hmm.
And just doing lessons and all that. And it never really, I was kind of, I guess, being a musician, you sort of approach music differently. When you hear things, it kind of hits you a different way than maybe the normal person. But I never really expanded on that. I can remember hearing my teacher, I'd get there early and I could hear her playing jazz and blues on the piano and really being into that, not really understanding why.
Yeah.
Or why it was cool or why it was hitting me or whatever. But just kind of, feeling music without being too hippie, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I was just having that conversation with my dad, actually, is that I feel like musicians are always, it's like it's a gift and a curse in a sense that you don't really understand why, but you're hearing music on a certain level that you at a certain point you realize not everybody's listening to it the way you are, and it can almost become distracting from everyday life. I know it was for me when I was young and in school, because I'm thinking about the rhythm of the teacher flipping through the book, or you hear you catch these little sounds, or you start analyzing music in the background of what your day as you're going, and it like you said, you don't really know why it's touching you at that level, but you're onto something. So when did you?
It's pretty, it's pretty vivid memory as well. I don't remember a whole lot from my childhood. I mean, some people can remember everything. I'm not one of those folks. I've had a lot of concussions too, so we'll get to that.
Yeah.
I do remember that. I think the instances that are most impactful in your development guess as a person, you tend to remember. I can remember it down to the smells of the room and all that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Exactly what was going on. Whereas other, lessons or times, not so much. But I remember that was really my first introduction to music in a way that it wasn't just enjoyment. It was kind of like hitting me to my core.
Absolutely.
Without sounding too hippy dippy.
I know exactly what you mean. I've had that same experience.
Sure.
So when did you first get a guitar in your hands?
I didn't start playing guitar until I was 16, so much later.
Wow.
So I started on piano when I was 7. Kind of went through that until, I don't know, maybe like 4th or 5th grade, whatever. And then put it down, stopped playing music altogether. Until I started playing guitar, essentially, at 16. So music was always sort of a big part. I think another thing that was sort of influencing me at a younger age is skateboarding. So like a lot of skate videos it was like my first introduction to audio and cinematography sort of being synergistically linked, in a way that was different from like watching a movie. You know what I mean? It was more like, it was less commercial and more like, you're seeing this skate part with Iron Maiden playing in the background or whatever, you know what I mean? And the way that those videos or the cinematography is put together and everything, so, it's really, back then at least, it was like really lo-fi. And
gave a certain edge to it too,
Yeah, it was more I hate to say, more like artistically inclined,
Well, you felt like when you watch that kind of stuff, you feel like they're trying to express something as opposed to trying to capture video of a skateboard. They were like they were telling a little bit more of a story. And it's funny you mention that, because a lot of people I know were influenced by skateboarding videos and stuff like that, whether it was like the CKY tapes or any of that stuff. But I wasn't a skater, but I always thought that stuff was cool, like you said, because I would hear like crazy punk music or metal. Like that was like, I would always hear some weird like Norwegian band on there, and and you're like, oh yeah, this is sick, like this is what I
the truth. Yeah, like with the synths and all that shit.
Yeah,
just like it was stuff I had never heard before. Yep. It was like that was really my first introduction to rock music and Jimi Hendrix and all that cool shit.
Was from skate videos.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, man.
Like there's some. I remember like a couple of commercials as well. This is before I even started playing guitar. There was like a Voodoo Child background music for a commercial. I don't even remember what the commercial was. Just like that intro riff with the wah and all that. Like, and then there was something for Crazy Train was used on some car commercial or something, But, but those are really like the two big songs I can remember as a kid, just like really digging it, not knowing why,
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't give a shit about the car,
you just into that, that Dodge commercial. That Dodge Dart looks
no
sick.
idea, like,
It's that Crazy Train.
I didn't even know it was a guitar,
Right.
I didn't even really know what the music was. I just knew that
it had your attention.
It just it hit me in that way, and then playing football and all that stuff. I think Metallica's blasting in every high school weight room, you know what I mean, for football.
I think it's amazing that Metallica is good enough to be played millions of times at every football from Pee Wee to the Super Bowl, but yet they can't hire them to do the halftime show. Fuck,
it's like
I get it, but it's like you tell me all you people don't want to hear Enter Sandman right now because I mean I think that's inevitable. So
I would love to see it, man.
When
everybody
Metallica
would love
in the
to see
90s
it.
short hair phase,
yeah.
It's funny now. That's not so bad. Now looking back, the short hair phase didn't seem so bad, but like early 2000s, it was still like very.
Yeah, it was like, what are you doing?
It was very treacherous times there for Metallica fans.
Yeah.
So when did you start like playing football? Did you start at Pee Wee level or middle school?
Nah, so my the first sport I actually started on was soccer. It was like pretty big in the Philly area. I didn't start playing. My dad played football, and he was the captain of his college team as well. He played for Westchester, and he started young, and he got some injuries young that kind of like stuck with him for his whole life, and he was, he's an old school dude, Irish dude, and he was like, you're not allowed to play until you hit puberty or whatever. You got hair on your arms, you can defend yourself a little bit, not getting smashed under the pile. So he wouldn't let me play until 7th grade, I think I started. So I started kind of late, for most people they're starting Pee-wee pound ball or whatever, but I never played anything.
Now, Daryl, when did you start?
I started in high school, sophomore year of high school. So like for me, it's the same thing. But I only reason I started is because I hate bullies. So there was a guy on the football field that was bullying somebody else, and I didn't have pads on. He had pads on. I laid him out, and the varsity football coach said, "Hey, you know what? You did pretty good there. You want to do this all the time?" And I was like,
let's get a jersey on you.
What do I got to do? Hit the dude with the ball, and that's it. And I was like, really?
All right, so are you telling me?
Defense is easy, right?
My gosh.
Make sure nobody gets past you.
Just get an understanding. That's it. Hey, he has the ball. You lay him out. That's it.
Yeah.
It's real simple.
You and Bobby Boucher almost have the same origin story.
Hey, you know what? Gatorade sucks. Water's better.
There you go.
Oh man,
it couldn't be truer in this day.
Exactly.
Sugar and salt. Most people aren't exercising even close enough to be drinking Gatorade.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you gotta burn first before you're fueling up on those carbs.
I gotta get my electrolytes in while I'm texting on the leg press machine.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, exactly.
So what was your first experience on the football field? Like, did you feel like you were out of place? Did you feel like this was something that you really wanted to do? Like your first go at it?
Yeah. No, I really wanted to do it. I was always into it. I was always watching it. Once I was old enough to kind of understand it. I was always pretty athletic. I was a fast kid, playing soccer and stuff. Kind of learned to run and all that. There's a lot of running, obviously, in soccer.
What position did you play in soccer?
Man, that was a midfielder, and then I played like forward, striker, and that sort of stuff.
So you're always covering ground.
Yeah, man. I mean, growing up too is, it's like, it's I don't want to like sound old here, but before technology kind of took over everything, you're outside running around all the time.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And it really wasn't that long ago. But it seems like
it does when you think about it. How much has changed in just like 15 years. It's a whole different world. So you really you really knew that you wanted to play football. So did you, like, I guess early on, did you think like I'm
definitely into it.
I'm gonna dedicate myself to this and see how far I can go?
So I started in grade school, and it was more like, all my friends were playing, I was into it, and I was pretty good. Played tailback and all that, I always was pretty aggressive, I guess you say. Like my first year playing, I separated my shoulder, or like nailed this dude that was a lot bigger than me, and didn't fare well for me. He just went down, and I stayed down.
You have to learn your limit.
Small, I was like really light. Doing those tackling drills, when you're first starting out, they like, you just run into each other.
That's it. There's no rhyme or reason to it.
It really is. Like, for whatever reason, the coach wants to see who's gonna run into the other dude harder. All right, thanks, man.
Thanks for all those extra impacts. Yeah.
My shoulder still hurts from that, bro. But yeah, no, I think I was naturally pretty good at it, just from having some athleticism and having that sort of mentality, I guess.
When did you key in on focusing on like defensive backfield? Was that high school?
So, yeah, that was more high school. I mean, I played DB in grade school too, but not really throwing the ball a whole lot in pound ball or in grade school. It was more like whoever the running back was like the stud on the team. You send it off to them.
Mm-hmm.
But in high school, you kind of get placed more. Coaches place you where they need you or whatever. I actually transferred high schools. I don't know if I told you that, but I started at this place called Bishop Shanahan.
Okay.
It's in Downingtown, Pennsylvania, out towards Coatesville.
Yeah.
and they had a decent freshman year, it was like on the freshman team or whatever. And then the sophomore year, I just kind of got buried on the depth chart. They brought in some kids that were younger than me, and put them ahead of me. So I kind of saw the writing on the wall there, and was like, one, it wasn't really the best school for football. Two, there was sort of what seemed to be kind of like political relationships happening. Like they knew the kids, friends with the parents or whatever. So.
I imagine that's a big issue, and when you start getting competitive, because you're looking at like potential scholarships.
Like yeah. I mean, that's obviously a big part of it. I mean, the kids are good; they're definitely athletic, good players. And I'm not gonna blame it on political relationships and stuff. I think there was undeniably a little bit of that, but at the same time, too, it's gotta be the best person to get the job, you know?
Absolutely.
I think the greater factor was I just wasn't really happy with like the coaching and the system there, and the teams that they had been playing. It was like relatively small in terms of like the competition and all that. So I actually transferred my sophomore year of high school to Cardinal O'Hara in Philly, which was like Philadelphia Catholic League. It's pretty big. Like St. Joe's Prep is in the Catholic League. They're like nationally ranked every year and all that. That was actually where my dad played at as well, and my sister went to school there. I was like the first person in the family to go to a different high school. So I made the switch to go there. I didn't know anybody. I think I had like maybe one friend, starting out or whatever, and just kind of worked my way up and then got starting position my junior year. So I missed I played my sophomore year at Shanahan. I transferred to O'Hara, and then obviously went through all the workouts and stuff in the spring, summer, and then got a starting spot my junior year.
Nice.
And I had a tough game against Rowan. Do you guys know?
Rowan.
Yeah, or Rome. I'm sorry, Roman. But Rowan as well. Yeah, Roman Catholic, where there's a bunch of good players came out of there. Actually, Marvin Harrison's like the most famous one, I guess. But tough game against them. I got benched after that game and missed the whole rest of my junior year.
How did you think that affected you going forward after that being benched?
It was tough, man. And it was rightfully so. I mean, I got burnt a couple times. We lost the game. There's different ways to handle it. They were really old school there, and I respect that. I was also young. There was a couple corners that I had beat out for the position that were seniors. I was a junior, and I think they felt like, as soon as I made a mistake, they were going to get those guys back in. Yeah, you know what I mean? Because rightfully so, they deserve the time as well as seniors. And the dude did fine. Like, the guy that went in did fine, did great, had a good season, all that. But long term, I mean, it definitely teaches you adversity, and you have to perform. I mean, I think more than anything in football, you have to perform. There's always someone else that's willing to take your spot and working just as hard, if not harder, whatever. So you have to work hard and you have to play.
That's been the amazing thing that I've been learning, as a lifelong football fan, and now getting into Daryl's universe and talking to guys like, I mean, whether it's from Daryl or Tank Johnson or Aaron Beasley or Tajay Sharp on the Titans right now, it's like no shit goes there. I mean, it's like it's either you're doing it or you're not doing it. Like, and it's like, obviously you can't run the entire world that way. But it definitely, if you can hang in that kind of system, it absolutely benefits you on the outside. So I'm sure that it was tough, especially I can't imagine the ego of somebody in high school and getting benched and all that shit, especially when you like transfer. So
I was like the new kid that didn't help at all. Right. I was like the redheaded stepchild. You know what I mean? They're like nobody really knew me. They knew you
for a reason you didn't want to be known for.
Well, I love Mike's attitude though about the whole situation, because the one thing about the game, which is cool, and I know you were talking about the undeniable level of politics that was present prior to transferring. The one thing I do love about the game is that there's wholesale honesty between the lines.
Yep.
So
man,
whether I miss a sack or I miss a tackle for loss or, you know, I just don't perform, you know, the game will kind of put you in your timeout. And then when you come back, especially if you bounce back the right way, then you have stones about yourself and you know exactly what to do.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah. It's just like anything else. You know, there's football gets a lot of flack. There's definitely some negative aspects to it, but just like in life, you know, you can either learn from getting benched, or you can, you'd sulk and blame somebody else, or would it make excuses for whatever it's going to be, and that's not going to get you back on the field. No. That's not going to get you where you want to be in life. So,
well, it's also much easier.
Definitely,
like you're saying, it's much easier to sulk and be negative than it is to dig yourself out, and that's one of the things we talk about. You know, what makes an everyman is somebody who's able to fight back on that adversity and pull themselves back out. Because, like we were just discussing last week, you have everybody, whether you're LeBron James or me, you have moments where you're down, and it's just like, how do you get yourself out of that hole is like the key to how well you're gonna proceed through life. So did you know that you were going to have options playing in college at that point, or did you need to go find a school and try out and all that stuff?
So the way it used to be, at least when I was playing, like junior year was the most important year in terms of getting recruited. If you were really good, exceptionally good, your sophomore year, maybe if you were starting, you were just like way ahead of everyone. But junior year was really like the main year for getting recruited to go to school, because once you're a senior, everybody had kind of already committed to where they're going, and they're looking to the next class or whatever. So in terms of my recruitment, I think that definitely hurt a lot, in terms of like offers and things like that going to college. I actually wasn't even the starter going into my senior year. And I just kept working and beat out the kid that was ahead of me. He was younger. I beat him out for the spot, and then I started for the whole season. I mean, I missed like, I don't know, the first half or the first quarter of the first game, and played the whole senior year from there. And I had some decent offers from Division III schools. The only real school that gave me even a little bit of notice was the University of Delaware, Division I school, 1AA, I guess. Great program. And that was really, really wanted to go there.
That probably would have been the time that Flacco was there, right?
Yeah, around the same time, yeah. I think he may have been...
Because he was at Pitt. Yeah, he was at Pitt with Tyler Palco, and then he transferred. Yeah, so I think that was like... it was like 2005, 2006.
Yeah, so he's like a couple years younger. I think I was out of high school in 2004.
Okay.
So it was around the same time, though. I mean, we would have been on the team together if I had went there. But I wasn't really getting a whole lot of looks, you know what I mean? And, until one day I got a call from this coach, and I don't know if you guys have ever had a coach that left a lasting impression on you, whether it was short or long. Yeah, long term.
Man.
A man named Marshall Roberts, and he was at East Stroudsburg University at the time. And, he got on the phone with me, and he was really the first person that kind of saw something in me as a football player, as an athlete, and super encouraging. He had me come up for a visit, and when we met, it was like, if you're looking to get to the next level, I'll do my best to get you there. And just saying the right things, but he's also a really genuine guy, And good man. As we're leaving, he was saying, I'm going down to visit this other university. So if you don't hear from me, that's where I'll be at. But, I'll be in touch and all that sort of stuff. Okay, so we end up committing to Stroudsburg to go there. And I got a call from him, a couple months later, and he basically told me he was going down to Liberty College. So he left Strasburg. Yeah. He was the recruiting coordinator for my area, for the Philadelphia area. So that's why he was doing his due diligence in terms of continuing to recruit, even though he was interviewing elsewhere and obviously left. You know, was potentially going to leave, and he ended up leaving. Went down to Liberty, and he offered me a spot at Liberty, you know, to go down and play down there. But I was committed to Stroud, and it was closer to home and stuff. I didn't really know a whole lot about Liberty. Do you guys know about?
It's in that's outside of Baltimore, right?
Yeah,
isn't it like a Christian university?
It's really religious. It's down in I believe I want to say Virginia.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I know it's in the
anymore.
DC area. I don't know whether it's in Maryland or Virginia, but
it's a great school and a good football program.
Yeah, they have a lot of good athletics. I know they have a great softball program. I know they're always,
but you know,
like,
I wasn't
nationally
really. It just was a little bit. Nothing against religion or anything, but it was a little intense for me.
Sure.
Daily stuff that you had to do and all that. But so I committed to Strasburg. And essentially when I got to Stroud, he was my coach. He was a position coach, and he was the coach that recruited me. When I got there, they didn't even know who I was. Basically, I was getting letters and stuff, but I didn't even have a helmet.
Jeez.
Yeah. So I got into the locker room. This is like day one, you know.
Wow.
It's like, hey, you recruited me. Where's my helmet?
Yeah, you know, and I'm not bagging anybody here. Like, they're great people. It was like one of the greatest experiences of my life playing there. You know, I made, you know, they're brothers to me, my teammates now. You know, the coaches there and stuff. But at the time, I was like,
really?
Man,
yeah.
Did I make a mistake here? I think it's going to be a problem. But yeah, I get into the locker room, and I was like the guys that got recruited, they had numbers already and stuff, 8 or whatever, for your skill position, your number was going to be, I was like 106 or something. I didn't
triple
even
digits.
Dude, I was in triple digits. Didn't even have a helmet, so I'm out there running around like with no helmet, 108, like whatever the hell my number was, for the first day. It was pretty discouraging, to say the least.
Sharing a cup with the kicker.
The lonesome kicker.
Are you done with that, dude? Yeah. You get a handle on that. So, not to go too in depth there. Basically, what ended up happening. This is another great thing about football is, if you work hard and you put the time in, it'll show on the field regardless, So even though I was number 108 without a helmet, they didn't recognize at least my athleticism initially, like right away. Within the first couple of days, I had gear and I had a proper number,
right?
And I was still running. I was still running scout team. It wasn't. They definitely weren't really interested in me that much at the time. You know what I mean? But I had at least I had a clicker.
You had your own helmet. Yeah.
Get that man some pads now.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Within the first couple of weeks, started to settle in. And by the third, I believe it was the second or third game of the season, I got a starting position, basically my freshman year. And you
weren't a red shirt, right? You were true freshman?
No, I was a true freshman. Yeah, true freshman. And we had a good team too. It wasn't like they were hurting or anything.
Yeah, I looked up the media guides, and I was looking at the team, and I was doing some research, and they were competitive, and they were a playoff team when you were there.
And I played with some of the I ran against Evan Prawl, who was all-American wide receiver, got tried with the Jets after he had graduated. He and our quarterback, Jimmy Terwilliger, who's actually the head coach now at Strasburg, he won the Harlan Hill, which is D2 Heisman, Division II Heisman trophy.
Nice.
Right.
So I was playing corner running against those two guys every day because I was on the scout team initially. Jimmy got a tryout with the Vikings, and probably went with the Jets for a little bit and stuff. So I was playing against really top notch guys, you know.
Yeah.
And it only made me better,
Absolutely.
you know, in terms of my skill and you know, not getting beat on close corners every day.
It's like it's like my guy Mike Tomlin always says, iron sharpens iron, you know, and like you're not going to get any better. And it's the same thing with music. You know, you're not going to get to the top of your area of your instrument if you're just playing Smoke on the Water every day. You know, you got to, at a certain point, you got to start, you know, and shout out to Deep Purple, but at a certain point, you've got to increase the difficulty, you know, on the field, off the field, you know, whatever it is.
I got to ask a question real quick, Brother Jay.
Yeah, man.
So Mike, like for those times where you had a little bit of adversity, where you're like kind of a little bit down, or just kind of like when you come in, you don't have a helmet, you're like number 108, you know.
I was a lot down, dude.
So like during those downtimes, I know like for me, I was recruited by Northwestern really heavily coming out, and
nice.
Gary Barnett was the head coach there, coming out in 99, 2000.
Yeah.
He ended up leaving the day of signing to Colorado.
That's it.
And so we had an entire blue chip class like scrambling to go somewhere because he said he was going to be there, and then he fucking left.
Yeah, it's coming.
And
like,
so,
I understand that their time too. Like, they can't say, you know, they're definitely, they can't, he's not going to.
So like I had
say he's leaving.
Yeah, I had like 2 days to get to know an entire new coaching staff, and Gary Barnett from the university, not Gary Barnett, but Greg Madison was the defensive line coach for Notre Dame. And he said, I told you he was going to leave. We still got a scholarship for you. But I really wasn't feeling Notre Dame because, again, not that I wasn't not religious, you know, I was Baptist, but it was Catholicism. But I was kind of like, man, I don't know. But that lasting impression thing you were talking about, that kind of stuck with me because Gary, you know, because Coach Madison was like, look, you can go anywhere else and be good, but you can come here and be great, and then you'll be a Notre Dame man. And it's just something about how he said it. You can be a Notre Dame man. And I was like, you know, I like the sound of that, you know? But when I got there, I got my ass kicked. No lie. Like, I was getting...
Notre Dame's,
dude.
I was a huge Notre Dame fan growing up. That was the school, that was like the dream school for me.
Yeah.
To like go to Notre Dame and play at Notre Dame and all that. Yeah.
I was getting buried, concussions. I remember Kurt Vollers, and I was an inside linebacker. So like when I got there, we had like a few defensive linemen that left to go to the league. And so they were like short change. They're like, listen, you're growing, so we're going to put your hand on the ground. I had never done it.
Do
so
they mean,
like,
when they say growing, do they mean you were getting larger physically, or
like
your skill set?
Like taller, you know what I mean? So like,
it's a scary thought.
Like inside linebacker, I was like,
guy getting bigger.
Well, I grew a half inch every year I was at ND. So like, so it was like I was still, you know, rolling, but you know, just long story short, I was getting my ass kicked. And so like when I got to Notre Dame and I was talking to my dad like every day, like, Pop, like, I don't know, like I'm getting fucked over. Like they're like wrecking me every day. And he's like, listen, son, like you just got to pick yourself up and just keep working. And for me, during those down times where I was getting thrashed and not feeling like really being there, like my thing was writing. My thing was poetry. And so like I would just go into my own little zone. And that's kind of how I, you know, managed the down times, not playing, getting wrecked, having to, you know, worry about athletics and academics, kind of not struggling with both, but my passion was football and I wasn't succeeding. So it was kind of depressing. You know what I mean? So writing helped me. And I was just wondering, was music there to be cathartic for you, like during the down times?
Yeah. I mean, there's, well, the one thing I want to say too is like, man, dads are, you always go to dad, right? Man,
my gosh.
My dad,
Amen.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a junior, you know. So
I'm a junior too. I'm a junior too.
Got a couple of juniors over there.
JR Dots. You know what I'm saying?
Nah, but yeah, I was always, you know, my dad was, I got to give a shout out to Mike Sr.
Yeah.
You know, he was always there.
Pops, Big Milk.
Yeah.
Pops, my man.
But
I'm the same way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's important. It's really important. But yeah, so in terms of music and all that, you know, it was always sort of the background. You know, it was the background to every workout. It was the background to to in between classes to in between meetings to the bus trips, you know what I mean? And it was always there to, a lot of the times, I didn't mention this before, I didn't even listen to a lyric of music until I started trying to write songs, like playing in bands and stuff, which was later after college.
Yeah.
You just focused on the music.
Just the music.
Yeah.
It was like the melodies and the music and what was happening instrumentally.
There's like some other guy's going to come in and deal with that. I'm just going to.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it wasn't even intentional. It was just that's what was. And even still to this day, if a song is an amazing song because of the lyrics, I respect it, but it doesn't hit me like someone that can sing their tail off. You know what I mean? That's
right.
Singing those words. The melody is there, the phrasing and all that. But it was always sort of a supplement, I guess you could say, like what you were saying, in terms of, it was a catalyst to keeping me motivated or keeping me inspired and all that.
Yeah.
I wasn't doing it. I was always playing guitar and learning different songs in between and all that. But it wasn't really until after I stopped playing football that I really started to devote a ton of focus to it. But yeah, I guess should I continue with the Strasbourg stuff?
Well, so after you
be too wordy here,
No, dude, it's great, man.
It's great.
So what I wanted to talk to you about then is, so you've kind of overcome that transition from high school to college, and then from triple digit no helmet to recognized as an athlete, and then you're starting. At any point, when did you start thinking, like, how far can I take this? Like, was that something that was on your mind?
Yeah, that was always the goal, at least. By the time I was old enough to understand life, I guess, a little bit, and sort of set long-term goals. It's probably like, junior, senior high school. I wanted to, at the very least, play at the college level, and then once I got into college, started playing, earned a starting spot. It was only D2, but it was still good enough to play at the next level if you worked hard enough and all that, I knew that I at least wanted to try to have a career, whether it be, just making a team in the NFL, being on a team, being a practice squad guy or special teams guy, or if that meant playing arena. Arena was big at that time, coming up.
There's been some time.
Yeah.
There's been some time in there.
Absolutely, man. And then the Canadian Football League too. I just wanted to keep playing if I could. Yeah.
Grey Cup champ over here,
dude.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, that's legit though. That's real. Most people don't come even close to that, man. So,
yeah.
No, it's amazing when you really think about how many people get into football and how few people get to a point where they can call themselves champion of any league, man. Like any league.
High school, college, I don't care.
Or even just to play in college, man. To play at Notre Dame, dude, that's like you're already in the 0.005% of football athletes in America, in the world, whatever, But yeah, so I had some success my freshman year, feeling good, played. I was a nickel corner, essentially. I played some safety, and I played in passing situations. But we blitzed a ton.
Yeah.
So I actually played a good bit. I mean, I probably played. There were some games where I played 55 snaps at nickel. So it was like, depending on what the situation was, I was playing a good bit.
Well, I know you got your hands on the ball a few times too, and you had a couple returns.
Yeah, it's like we played a ton of bump and run. Mm-hmm. So it was more like if they weren't thrown at you, you were doing a good job. You know what I mean? The guys so I didn't have a ton of picks, but I had a couple, and made some plays and all that. My going into my freshman and sophomore season was our best season. That's when we made it to, we were second in the nation for a little while, made it to semifinals and all that.
Nice.
And then going into my junior year, my position coach left. We had a new coach come in. and won't go into too much detail, but we didn't really get along all that well. You know, it is what it is. Looking back, he was just really pushing me, and he had his own thing about him. You know, he played in the league and coached in NFL Europe, and I think he coached in Canada a little bit too. Definitely did some shit, you know. But you know, looking back on it too, I was feeling good about myself. Started as a true freshman, true sophomore. People were talking about, you know, the different all conference, all that bullshit, you know, that people talk about. It was all just talk. But, you know, it was getting in my head. I was feeling good about it, you know. Like I was going to be a full-time starter now at corner going into my stuff. And he kind of kicked me down, you know, in terms of like really was hard on me, riding me constantly, you know, like in a militaristic way, you know. You see that shit from boot camp, and it's like, you know, it was actually a good thing looking back on it now. But man, it was hard dealing with it at the time because you feel like, at least given my past, you know, having the transfer and then being benched and then showing up to camp with no number. Finally, I felt like I was finally starting to make
some of that daylight, and then
and then he started throwing people in front of me and riding me, you know, and always threatening to bench me, you know, all that sort of stuff. So it's hard to deal with mentally, you know what I mean? And it's like that's a huge part of playing football also, in my opinion. Like people really only see the physical side of it.
Yeah, dude.
Well, it's also a huge part about being a, you know, especially doing what we were doing together, which is being like a hired gun in music, doing somebody else's thing, is that, you know, like there's a certain expectation, and you're either doing it or, like I said before, you're not. And you know, that can be, it's emotionally taxing to put yourself in a position where you're like, I'm about to do something where I'm just going to get shit on and beat up for however long it takes. And I'm just going to keep absorbing all this criticism and negativity.
Just keep going.
For whatever reason, you know, like, and that's like, I mean, that whether you're doing it for football or music, you know, it's the everyman's journey.
Man.
So when did you decide that
sorry,
you're good, man.
I'm not dodging this question. There's just
when did you?
What ended up happening is I got injured basically.
Right.
It's like my sophomore year, I broke half my hand, or my junior year, I broke half my hand.
Half your hand?
God.
Yeah. So the fourth and fifth metacarpal.
Oh.
Yeah. It was like the second or third game of the season, right? And it turned out that season actually was a strike season. The school, like the teachers, went on strike, so we actually had less games. The reason I say that is like, if you're familiar with the medical red shirt rules, you guys familiar with those? It's a percentage of your season,
right,
that you can't exceed. I think it's like 30%.
It's validated as a year if that's happened. So
so you get a year. Yeah, you get a year back. So basically, what ended up happening is, you know, they wanted me to play with it all fucked up, and being a musician, I was, you know, talking to the doc, and the doc's like, if you want to play music at all 10 years down the line, guitar, piano, whatever it's going to be, you got to get it fixed, you know? So against a lot of scrutiny and criticism, coaches, everybody kind of looking at you like, yo, we need you to play, you know? I got the surgery, and I have a plate and 6 screws in my hand now. So basically what ended up happening is we were in playoff contention. I got the surgery and I was out for, I guess it was about 5 weeks, something like that. And we were in playoff contention, and we were playing our rivals, Westchester University. So this is my hometown and stuff. That was a school that told me I wasn't good enough to play there. So I have this like, vendetta. Yeah,
forever. I know exactly what that is.
Yeah, it's just forever and vendetta. They don't even.
Listen, I still remember the name. I still remember the name of the talent show judge from the Bucks County Courier Times that told me that my band was not good enough when I was in ninth grade. So
Yeah,
I'm respectfully
let it
not
fool ya.
letting your name out there, sir. But don't you think I haven't forgotten? And you know what? I saw that the Courier Times is going through some trouble and had to sell their building, and I wasn't sorry. So you know who you are.
Hey man, you gotta let that go, dude. You
Yeah, put that one down, brother.
Nah, but like some of my teammates from Shanahan played for Westchester U. You know what I mean? So there was just all kinds of bullshit.
Oh yeah.
But so that we had to beat them to make the playoffs my junior year. So I came out. I burned my medical red shirt essentially to play in that game. I had like a playing cast on my hand where I put a glove over top and just played with it. And that game. I got my first serious concussion. I was like knocked out cold. And that was the end of my junior season. So I played in like 2 games my junior year and lost because of the medical. So I have 1 year left, essentially. To answer your question, I'm still trying to play professionally or whatever, you know. Worked all through the summer. Our coach actually went and coached in Germany, the European League, for spring ball. So I coached primarily the secondary going into my senior year. We had like a student coach or whatever as well. But I had the guys come over, we would watch film and do all that stuff and practices and everything. Then going into my senior year, I earned the captain position going into our first game. And I played in the first 3 games of the season. Then halfway through the 3rd game, I got another concussion, another really serious concussion.
Damn.
And that was the end of my career. last play of my football career, I knocked down a pass. So I got that to hang my hat on.
Well, it's good that I know from experience, my football playing days did not go anywhere to the length of your guys. But at the time it sucks. But now I think about what I'm doing now with my life, and I wonder how good I would be at doing it if I had racked up any more injuries for something that ultimately I never would have been able to get to the point where Daryl did or where you did. And it makes you kind of think that you're in that, we talk about all the time, the cosmic canoe. You one door opens and you're pushing yourself towards one exit, and then you're off in the wind, and you just got to keep moving with it. So luckily, similarly with you and I, with my history, we both had music to kind of not fall back on, but kind of turn our lives to. So when did you decide that you were going to move to New York and give that a run?
Yeah, so, after all that I had done, I was obviously down for a little while. You devote a lot of your life to trying to do something that ends really abruptly. So I still was there for a little while. I had to finish up school, and while I was there, I had finished up my major in 4 years, but I had to take one class that would finish up my minor degree. I was a sport management major and business management minor, but they were only offering the class in the fall, so I had to stay an extra semester in school. So I actually loaded up my schedule with music classes, just like to kind of transition from having all this focus on sports and athleticism, and then having that kind of pulled out from underneath you, now I had to focus that energy somewhere else. So I was starting to push it into music, and that's where I met a professor by the name of Dr. Robert Miller. He was a piano instructor, composer at East Stroudsburg. He was actually the pianist for the New York Philharmonic for a little while.
Wow.
He did like the conservatory thing. There's a famous pianist, Van Cliburn. He turned pages for him, which means like, you ever see the person
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, they turn the
yeah. It's almost like you're almost like their understudy in a sense.
Right, correct. Yeah. So he's definitely it was way more accomplished than me, or I'll probably ever be on the piano. So he's a good person. He kind of turned into my mentor on the piano. So I was still playing guitar, but this was more piano based now. I started composing music and taking all those years of bus rides of listening to Hans Zimmer and all these different movie score composers and just, Beethoven, Chopin, all that stuff. All those bus rides, listening to that stuff, taking it and starting to put it into my own music,
Yeah.
And essentially what I did is started taking lessons with him. And then one day I was like, I have some compositions I've been working on. Would you be willing to listen to them? And he was really formal, like conservatory dude. So I could see he was kind of against it to start,
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, whatever, buddy.
Your little bullshit rock and roll.
Yeah. Devil's music. But I played one for him, and he was into it. So from that point forward, we kind of ditched the classical. It was classical music, essentially, like film score style stuff, compositions. But we ditched that, and I would just bring in compositions, and he would essentially work through the composition with me, from a technique perspective and flow perspective. All these things like what you would teach someone trying to learn a Chopin or a Beethoven piece, but it was just teaching me through my own pieces, which was really cool. Yeah, it was really cool.
That's sweet.
And it got to the point where I actually performed these compositions at Strasbourg for the recitals and all that sort of stuff. So that was pretty cool.
Nice.
And that was really important and encouraging, I think, for me to realize, hey, man, like, that you actually could potentially do this as a profession. If you, they always say, like, the only way you fail in music is if you don't quit, right?
Yeah.
You can hang in there long enough.
Yeah, I can attest to that. That's
dude.
fucking sure.
Being a musician,
it's just like, who's gonna hang in long enough? That's exactly what it is.
Yeah. But yeah, so that was really the turning point to answer your question in terms of wanting to play music professionally. I got a call from some guys in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. You guys familiar with that?
Of course, absolutely.
Right? Allentown stuff. Yeah. He was a friend of a teammate of mine on the football team. He was a singer, and he gave me a call and he said, "Hey, my buddy plays football with you. I heard that you play guitar. Would you want to be in our band?" So I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." I went down and auditioned, and it was the first time in my life I think I actually like went into something and it went well immediately. It was like, I got the gig. I went in and did well and got the gig, and it wasn't like, it not that it's supposed to be easy, but I think all the hardship with football and going through all that sort of stuff is, man, I still haven't faced anything as challenging as that in my life.
That's a benefit.
We've done some stuff too, even like those long road trips that you and I, but it's not even close, man. I can remember like dealing with all that stuff with my coach, in junior year, like getting sick on my way to practice. I was so fucking stressed.
Anxiety, man.
Yeah.
It's real, bro.
Yeah,
what kind of goofy bullshit is he gonna put me through today?
No, that's just real, bro.
It was more just like I was placing so much emphasis in wanting to be a professional football player. It felt like my world was collapsing. Like this dude was going to pull that away from me, And
you never want to feel like
if I didn't play,
one person.
If you don't play, you can't. Yeah, I mean, you gotta play a little bit to at least get a look. Go to the pro days and stuff. So yeah, I was like pulling over at red lights to fucking hurl. It was awful. I mean, I'm pretty. I seem like a chill guy, but I'm actually pretty wound up.
It's just calm on the surface.
Yeah, sorry, not trying to get sidetracked here.
No, not at all.
I think all that stuff sort of, it sort of led to me being able to deal with the stresses and the pressure of playing music in front of people, to traveling and playing in front of strangers or play in front of people that are not digging your stuff, that's always the hardest shit.
Well, and I want to say a couple things here about my experience of playing with you is that, Daryl, when I got asked to do this, to join in on this group for a little bit, I didn't really know what it was. I knew I had a relationship with the person whose band and music it is, And I didn't really know what to expect, but you know, being like out in the suburbs, for me, it was always like a dream of mine to play music professionally in New York City. Like for musicians, and I don't know if it's the same with you, Mike. I know we've talked about it a little bit, but there's always something in my head that like, well, you got to go play in New York or play with a band out of New York or something. Like if you really wanted to see if you could hang, you know, and like put your like test your shit, you know, and the band that we had there, I mean, it's some of the most talented people I've ever been around, and I was, you know, that was my first. I had experience as a professional, but in doing my own thing, so where I was setting the tone, you know, as a leader of the business and also the band and the creative. And when you're that way and then you come into somebody else's thing, it's not an easy transition. And Mike helped me with that transition, because I felt, and I think Mike could tell right off the bat, that I felt like I was out of my element. And I was like, it's not that it wasn't a concern about my playing ability, but I felt like my certain style or brand was not going to work. And we had a couple rehearsals, and again, it's different when you're, you know, in New York. You don't just have fucking space laying around to practice. So like
you're in a closet for 2 hours
when you want to practice, like it's like somebody's got to spend money on it, you know. And it's like you go, we were practicing, shout out Smash Studios over there. It's in Manhattan's a really cool spot, and there's some of the world's best musicians come through there. And you know, it's like bang bang bang, like you're on a schedule, you got to get this done, you know, 4-hour rehearsals or whatever. So we only had a couple weeks of rehearsals, and then we're you know, the van pulls up, we're loading the gear in, and Mike and I were the only gentlemen on the trip. So right away we're kind of bonding, and I'm all the way in the back. We're in the back of the van, just talking shit kind of. And the first gig we had on that trip, I did not have a good show, and I'm not used to not performing well.
Right.
So like I'm like, I pride myself on always performing well, and I did not. And this was like one of the first times I can remember eating shit on stage, you know, and it maybe wasn't as bad as I'm describing it, but I was unhappy, and I knew that the band leader was unhappy with it. And we were actually staying at the band leader's her parents' home. It was however far away from the venue. And I remember, I'll never forget, we're in this like kid's bedroom. We're in this like,
sorry dude, I'm not funny.
Kid's bedroom with like these like
we're in two beds,
two separate beds. It was like
way too small for if we stood them together, it still wouldn't have fit you.
Dude, they were like 5 foot by 4 foot. Like they were ridiculous, and it was like, you know,
his feet are hanging off the back.
Yeah, it was, you know. So we're like in this like kid's bedroom, and we're like, it's like 3:30 in the morning, and I'm like beating myself up, you know, and I'm like, man, I was like, Mike, was that fucking garbage? Was that garbage, or garbage? Am I wrong? And you looked at me as I'm sitting in this child's bed, and
I'm in a toddler's
you're
bed.
Like, well, and like, just as cool as he's been here, he's like, well, I wouldn't say it's like garbage, but you know, like you weren't your confidence wasn't there. And you just told me, dude, like, and so, you know, just to paraphrase it, but I can't thank you enough for this, is you told me, you know, like, man, I'll follow you up there. Just do your thing. Just pick your direction and go with it, and I'll follow you, and we'll make it work. And Daryl tells this story all the time about playing with the fucking Chicago Bears, and Brian Urlacher telling him the same thing, and it straightened his ass out.
Bro.
And dude, like you,
there's nothing
and you did
like
that,
it.
and you did that for me, you know, and like you didn't have to do that. Like you're a professional in your own right, and you could have just let me suffer and, you know, languish all night in that child's bed. No, but I'm just saying, man. Like, so like, you know, I got to see you on that trip, and why we bonded so much is like I can see you as a teammate. I've seen you as a leader, and somebody like myself that prides myself on being a leader and a motivator. At that moment, I needed that light, and you shined that. And then the next night we had an awesome gig, and you know, and it was like you said, you know, I just picked my lane and I went with it, and it went really well. And that's an important.
I mean, I appreciate that I could help you. You know, man, it was meaningful to you.
Yeah,
you know? I was
absolutely
more just trying to make sure you didn't break that kid's bed. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm serious. In all seriousness, though, you know, I find that at least with music, if you're confident with what you're doing, people will respect it, even if you don't necessarily. Let's say you don't know the material inside and out.
right.
If you're still driving the ship, especially as a drummer, you know, it'll work still.
Absolutely. And then,
I wasn't the band leader, so
yeah, yeah, we were both in the same boat. Yeah,
sideman with you.
Yep,
But
exactly.
as a band, you know,
It's important,
It was
man.
much better, man. Yeah,
no, it was.
The most important thing is just playing together, working together.
Absolutely.
You know,
And
if we're all on the same page, that's what matters.
and I don't know about you, but I haven't encountered a whole lot of musicians in our circle that we run with that are of an athletic background or a team sport background, and I find that the ones where I do find them, like, we work so much better together because we've had that shared adversity. It's almost like I know what you've been through somewhere else, and that's like the brotherhood of football that Daryl talks about. Is like he can meet up with a guy who played, you know, 1/4 of one game, you know, and like they know there's one piece that they have in common that they can share.
Yeah. No, it's a real thing. And I mean, I didn't even go close to the level that you went to, but you know, like, when you're watching film and you're sitting there, everybody's at the same level. You could be the best player in the league, best player in the team, or whatever, and you're getting reamed out watching the tape.
Dude.
You know, it's like your ego is gone. Like, there is no ego.
No.
If you got an ego, they'll expose it on the tape. You know.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like the only way you win games and succeed together, even if you lose, but you're playing together, is everybody is doing their job, you know? And it's like, it's kind of hard to explain if you've never played football, but it's like, if one person slips up at any part of the defense, it's a touchdown, you know?
Well, that's
if you're not communicating, like if the safety's not communicating with me, I'm not communicating with the outside backer or a strong safety or whatever it is, you know, and they're not communicating down the line. Then you're not gonna. It's gonna suck.
My D-line coach in Canada, his name's Mike Sinclair. He used to say this all the time. It's like, football is so hard, even if you do everything right. Like, even if you do everything right, you're still not guaranteed to win. So everyone has to be on the same page. Everybody has to have that synergy, like you were talking about, Mike, and play together, play in unison, and execute. Because, like you say, if one person slips up, that's a down play, and that down play could be the win or loss of a game. So it's important, like,
season.
every time.
You know,
Yeah,
it could be your season. It could be all that money invested if you're playing at the pro level. You know, it's a lot of pressure there, man.
And the confidence too. Like, you guys having that that talk on the toddler bed, and you know,
I wish they were car beds. That would have been much better.
Car beds would be crazy.
They were the size of car beds.
But confidence, you know, what Mike imparted on you is the same thing. It's crazy. You know, B-Lack saying what he said to me, and I like drew a total blank in my first game, and like literally like seconds before the ball snapped, he goes, "Dude, don't worry, man. Just do your thing. I'll make you right." You know what I'm saying? And once that happened,
that's
like,
a good teammate, man.
Dude, I slipped right into like, dude, that's fucking Brian Urlacher. He told me just do it. And I was just like, okay, I'm cool. You know, you tell him, you know, I consider my brother Jay. You know what I mean? Justin, that, you know, just as long as you play with confidence, I'll follow you. I'll be there for you. And I think there's something to be said about people who, when we talk about this everyman journey, right? People who are willing to be champions for other people, man. There's something to be said about it, because if Brian Urlacher says, and we talk about this cosmic canoe, if he doesn't give me that confidence, I don't know how long, and you can attest to this too, Mike. I don't know how long after that, if I kept going in that direction, I tank or I stay on the team or you know what I mean? Like, but somebody like that coming in and saying, hey, listen, I'll make you right. Don't worry about you doing you. Just be you. You saying to Brother Jay, hey, you know what? I'll follow you. I'll be up there with you. I got your back. You know what I'm saying? Just play with confidence. Just be yourself. And that type of energy, man, like if everybody could do it, dude, it'd be awesome.
You got to put the ego aside, you know?
Well,
it's especially playing football, you can tell the guys that are out there playing for themselves.
Oh yeah.
It never works. The team stinks, you know?
And that's part of being, you know, what that everyman journey is sometimes leading and sometimes following and sometimes like Daryl just said, being a champion to your teammate, you know. And these are all things, whether you're in a gym working out for yourself, or you're, you know, on the football field, or on getting ready to go back out on the stage after a 15-minute intermission at the Hard Rock Cafe backstage. Daryl, we played this Hard Rock Cafe, and it was a sick gig, and it was in Myrtle Beach, and the backstage area, so we'd like play a set, and then it'd be like, okay, back to dinner, and then we'd cycle off, and we'd wait for like a half hour, and the backstage of the restaurant shared a wall with this like dueling piano bar. So like we'd walk out and go back, and they'd be like, no, you know, like it just like, like we were always walking into like the moment of the song when it was like at its peak, and there's just like 1,200 screaming like drunk girls next door, you know, yelling up for Billy Joel. And
it's like there's just every musician, if you play and you do a little bit of touring or anything, it's like Spinal Tap, dude.
It is.
You have Spinal Tap moments everywhere you go. You know, that's why that movie is so funny, dude.
Yeah.
It's just like, you can't even, that's why I just like, you know, you'll see musicians or whatever that they're, you know, they're into themselves, to say the least, whatever, you know, and I just kind of keep my distance, because it's like, dude, you're gonna be humbled eventually.
Like whether it's now or it's it's coming for you.
Your gear doesn't work, or PA shuts off, or someone throws something at you. Or, you know what I mean? It's just like there's always something. You know, there's always somebody better than you, and there's always somebody worse. It's like the biggest thing to remember when you're doing all this stuff, right? But
it's and it again, like I said right before we got on, is like, you know, you only put yourself in these situations if you love what you're doing. You know, whether it's football, getting your ass, you know, chewed out by some guy you don't necessarily see eye to eye with, or you know, playing a gig in a weird part of town that you know, you didn't know what to expect. So it's all part of that adversity, but you know, it makes you stronger in whatever it is that you do. And so how are you keeping active right now in music? What are you up to now?
Yeah, man, I feel kind of bad. I didn't really answer the whole New York City question. I wasn't diving.
Yeah, it's all right. We'll have you back on. We can dive deep into New York any other time, man.
Yeah. There's a bunch of shit there too. Living on the car and all that.
Part 2.
Yeah. So I was in band Mother for a long time, and love those dudes, great guys, but it just got to the point where it was one of the harder things I've had to do too in my life. I think maybe just the creative vision and what was going the direction and all that no longer aligned with what I was feeling, you know. And it's music is a tough thing, especially playing football, growing up that way, because you're so used to like such a regimented sort of pecking order, if that makes sense. Or there's a hierarchy, there's different levels that you get to. You do well in high school, then you play in college, you move up this depth chart, you know, and if you do this, then you get to here and all that. Music is just void of that to an extent. It's so subjective in terms of what people are going to like and what you like, and if what you're creating is going to help you to have a career doing it or not, you know.
Well, to quote the great late Dusty Rhodes, I find in music you can be dining with queens on one night and eating Franks and beans the next.
Nice.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds about right, man. That's what I mean. Like some of the best musicians I've ever met are the kindest people I've ever met, because they've seen it and they've done it, you know.
Yep.
And they've been through the ups and downs and all that. But yeah, not to go too in depth. I recently left that band, Mother, and we're all on great terms and stuff. You know, I'm getting married in September, and those guys are coming to the wedding. And so,
Congratulations. That's
great,
yeah.
They're all coming to the wedding and all that sort of stuff. You know, we've been through a lot of stuff together too. Riding around in a van for 20 hours.
Yep.
You know.
Yeah, you get tight.
Yeah. But really, where my heart and soul are at now, I'm transitioning into a different style of music. You know, I really have always loved, like even when I mentioned in the beginning with the piano, like the blues stuff, blues and soul and all that. I just did a lot of soul searching this last year, you know, and my favorite musicians, you know, Jimi Hendrix, guys like that, more modern guys, dude, Simo, and you know, they are band leaders and singers and guitarists all in one, you know. So basically where I'm at now is transition from basically being a sideman to being a band leader. I'm trying to, you know, I'm putting a band together, and I haven't really told too many people, but I've been learning to sing and get my chops up there. So
awesome.
You want to do something? You want to do something terrifying?
Them velvety pipes. Get them pipes out there, Mike. Get them pipes out there, baby.
Try learning to sing. Jesus, you know, I'm a pretty introverted guy, and that's been the biggest challenge, I think, is kind of getting past sounding bad, you know, being loud and sounding bad, and just working through it, you know, because you got to figure that shit out. But that's really where I'm at now. I mean, I'm still playing with Militia, and I have a band with Doc Coyle, you know, Doc from God Forbid.
He's doing
he's crushing it, dude.
They're killing it right now.
Yeah, he's a good dude, Doc. Really good dude. But you go ahead.
No, sorry. I just want to make sure I ask this question. Like, how'd you get into the personal training thing? Like,
oh yeah, man.
Yeah, like, I mean, you know, I mean, like, that's awesome.
I'll try and touch. Yeah, I'll touch on. I'm gonna try and do this really quick. So I said I'm introverted, and here I am fucking blabbing. You know, sometimes with podcasts, I'm like,
it's the cosmic canoe, man.
We to him, and I'm like, dude, shut up, man. Get on with it.
Shut that dude up now.
Yeah, I know, right? Now, basically, so my degree in school was sport management, and at Stroudsburg, half the curriculum at the time was exercise science based. I'm the type of person as well, like when I'm doing something, I was like playing football. I'm sure you get this, man. A huge part of it is the physical side of things, and workouts and eating right. And, you know, I was obsessed with being the fastest in my position and the strongest in my position and jump the highest and all that sort of stuff, you know. You know, I ran track as well at Stroudsburg, so that was like, there's a whole side of that. It's like slightly different from football training, you know, in terms of speed work and all that. So I spent a big part of my life in gyms and working on, you know, on myself, essentially doing things wrong too. You know, that's a big part. That's a big part of being able to teach other people, is understanding where things are wrong and how to avoid injury and all that. You know?
Right.
So when I finished school, I did my internship at this place called FAST, FASST. My mentor was this dude, in Allentown, My mentor was this dude, Jay Brader, Jason Brader, my mentor. I don't know if you guys know. You know him?
Well, so here's
all right, hang on a second. I've said the cosmic. So, Mike, you got to understand something, Mike. Okay.
Yeah.
I coined this theory, the cosmic canoe, which is that what Daryl and I are, and it starts with Extractus music getting to NFL films, which, you know, you knew all about that stuff, and then it turned into this whole universe here. Every time Daryl and I are in this boat that's somehow balanced out with his weight and mine. And every time, every time we put our paddle into the water, dude, and we extend ourselves in one direction or the other, we find somebody like yourself that has like this peripheral connection to what we're doing, And one of our first our first guest from the NFL world was Aaron Beasley, former cornerback who he went to Valley Forge Military Academy, played for the Jags, West Virginia, and that's where he
killed it, dude.
That's where he works.
Yeah,
he's fast. Yeah, with Jay.
Yeah, man.
He does like the DB clinics.
He actually has a coach. He has a camp this weekend.
Yeah.
for that. Like,
and it's just it's incredible. It's incredible that you trained that fast. Did you work with AB?
No. I think he was still playing.
Oh yeah, I guess that would.
Yep.
Yeah. I trained Dan Persa. He was at Northwestern. I don't know if you remember Dan.
Yeah.
Danny, quarterback.
Yep.
Justin Gaiman, the Olympic hurdler, he used to come through. Jay mainly trained him, the owner of the company, Jay Brader. But he used to come through, work together here and there. But that's what I did so Jay Brader trained me throughout football at Stroud. And then when I finished playing football, then I went and worked for him. I did my internship there.
Gotcha.
Worked for him for a summer. And then, we're still tight. We're still friends and stuff. He actually just passed his company off to, I forget the guy's name. They still have it there in the Lehigh Valley.
Yeah.
But he got assistant strength and conditioning coach at Louisiana Tech for football.
Oh, wow.
So Jay just moved down there. Yeah.
Sweet.
But yeah, that's why I did a lot of training. I mean, I learned a lot of mindset from him as well. The training, because there's so much that's done. I think we were talking about it a little bit, Jay, before we started this, is like with social media and people documenting all aspects of their life now. So with training, especially football, there's so much done behind the scenes that no one knows about.
Yeah.
Like they're not getting up early. I'm sure you did a ton of the workouts. It's like now everybody documents everything.
Right.
There's like no mystery.
Right.
You're seeing everything they're doing all the time. I don't know if it's good or bad, but there's a lot of mindset lessons learned, and obviously like technique lessons learned that I still apply, like from Jay, that I apply to personal training, city and all that.
So how many clients do you work with on a regular basis?
Let's see. I mean, I've been here for about 10 years. When I first moved here, so essentially like going back to what you were saying when you were asking me, or when you were talking about you wanted to go to New York to, be part of the best. And that's why I moved to New York as well as a musician. I moved up here because it was like within close proximity to Philly. And in my mind, it's sort of the best, the best of the best were. So when I moved here, I needed a job. I didn't even have a job. I moved here with nothing basically. And I was like walking around Times Square in a suit with my fucking resumes, like handing them out to like Red Lobster.
That's how you do it, dude. Everyman way.
I mean, that is the everyman way.
My dad was like, I'll get you if you really want to go. I'll get you there because I had no money,
Yeah.
And he fronted the money and co-signed for me to get up here. It's crazy expensive, but he's like, I'll get you there. But 6 months in, you got to have a job, or I'm not. You're done. You're coming back.
Right.
So I was like grinding, trying to get a job, and I got a call from. This girl was a bartender, actually, at the bar we used to go to in Stroudsburg. Randomly, man, I was like sick as a dog, feeling sorry for myself, like no job. And I just get this call one day. She's like, would you want to be a personal trainer at this gym I work at in the city?
Nice,
like,
dude.
No joke, random. Yeah, it's just... So obviously, I was like, yeah, hell yeah. I went up for an interview, met the dudes there. The gym's no longer there, but it was Edge at the time, Upper East Side. And the two gentlemen that ran the place, one was a Olympic powerlifter and the other was a pro bodybuilder. So I got all the sport side of things, growing up playing football and doing all the stuff with Jay Brader fast. And then I got the bodybuilding and powerlifting, New York City personal training ways, from there. So that's how I got my start at personal training. And the number of clients I got now, I don't even. I worked for a personal training company for a little while, trained all sorts of folks, millionaires, all that sort of stuff. And they kind of moved away from that lifestyle. I moved away from that company, and now I just have like my own business.
Nice.
It's referred to as independent training here in New York. And I don't even know, man. I mean, I'll probably do a typical day is like I'll wake up around 6 a.m., 5:30, 6 a.m., train until about 10 a.m., and have a break in the middle of the day when folks are at work, and then I'll go back out 4:30 till 9, 10 at night. So that's not every day, but that's like the average day during the week.
Gotcha.
So it leaves me a big block in the middle of the day to practice music.
Sweet.
That's where you see all this. Yeah.
Sweet.
And you've worked with some football players too, right? Some former NFL guys.
When I was at Fast, we had guys that were training for the combine and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. I didn't work with anybody that was like super big time. With guys that were preparing for the NFL combine, trying to, getting ready to go. Trying to remember some of the names, to be honest.
Well, Mike,
the closest thing that I have to the NFL is my teammates from Stroud, and them getting shots and playing.
Well, you're a true everyman, like I said before. You're one of the realest dudes that I know that I've been able to come across in the entertainment industry, and you know as well as I do that can be hard to come by, to find a genuine people in that industry. And you're certainly one of them, and I think you dropped a lot of really awesome little things to think about for people that are whether you're thinking about a career in music or professional sports, or you're thinking about moving to New York, or just going out and getting after something. I mean, you're a guy that wasn't guaranteed anything anywhere at any time, and you've found a way to make your will kind of happen in the world, and that's I got nothing but love and respect for you, my brother. And
I appreciate it, man. Thanks so much for having me on.
Yeah, man,
listening to my rambling.
This was great.
Dope.
This was great.
Straight dope, man.
So in closing, is there where can people keep up with you if they want to see what's going on and check out some of your shred?
Yeah, man. I mean, the best way is probably Instagram. Just do at Mike Gowen Jr. Gowen. My last name.
There we go.
And that'll be it.
There we go.
Thank you,
Mike Gowen. Thank you, my brother.
I appreciate it.
Peace
man.
out, Mike.
We'll catch you down the lane.
Yeah.